Here we go. We all know why we're here. We are going to miss our dear friend Elisa very, very much. And there's such sadness accompanying this kind of loss. You can't even measure it. But I propose, since this is a celebration of life, that beyond our sadness, on top of our sadness, we are able to celebrate today with joy. And joy in the form of having had the opportunity to know Elisa. I'm assuming everyone here did. And each had your own connection with her. Joy in being able to recognize the kind of person she was, who she was. And joy in that's the kind of ceremony she would like us to have to honor her. So let's celebrate with joy, and let's invite Elisa to join us today. I was thinking about the wind. It was really blowing a while ago. Thought, oh my gosh, how annoying. Things are going to be blowing around. And then I thought, no, Elisa could be like the wind. Kind of feisty. Enter the room with some dynamic impressions. So if she's in the wind today, I'm so happy she could be here with us. She was a community builder, a relationship forger. And each of you, I'm sure, had with her. Don't touch anything. And each of those relationships were incredibly meaningful to Elisa. She would be the kind of person that on first meeting, in her effervescent, most welcoming way, would let you know that she genuinely cared what you were up to, what was on your mind, and who you were. She looked that deeply, and she genuinely cared. So, community, sitting right here today, testament to the strength and the breadth of the influence that she had on so many lives. And so fitting that we have a community revolving around her. It's amazing to look out and see this sea of people. So we have some speakers, and what they have to offer represents a sample cross-section of Elisa's different aspects, different eras of her life. Not comprehensive, not totally inclusive, but again, meaningful. Some of those perspectives may overlap with your own and seem quite familiar. Some may be surprising to you. And again, like the wind, sometimes it surprises you. Elisa was capable of that as well. So I can't think of a better perspective to begin this storytelling than Elisa's husband, Jeff.
First of all, thank you to every one of you for being here. Sorry, I'm gonna get the cry out of the way first. So, give me a moment. I knew that this was going to be a whole lot of people because that's who Elisa was, and I honestly don't remember exactly when we first met. I came here in 1978, sort of at the very tail end of the hippie influx to the North Fork Valley. Elisa had already been here for a number of years, was working at the coal mine, was well established. And she was part of a circle of people that included something called the Lamborn Valley School. How many people remember that one? Oh, yeah, lots and lots of you. Well, I lived in the little weird cabin right across the street from the Lamborn Valley School, which got inundated by a mudslide one spring, but that's another story. And I very quickly became part of the whole circle of all of the parents of all of those wonderful kids and all of the wider circle of the community that was happening around Paonia in the late 70s. And Elisa was part of that circle. So we were just in the same group, and I honestly don't remember exactly when I first encountered her, except for one instance at a Lamborn Valley School potluck. And for a few years up until that time, I had been attempting to be a vegetarian and not really trying very hard, eating lots of eggs and cheese, you know. And I went to this Lamborn Valley School potluck, and there was the most huge, big, beautiful ham baked with pineapple slices and cloves and everything. And, well, I fell off the vegetarian wagon that day, and I never went back. And Elisa baked that ham. And she said she always got a kick out of all the vegetarians that dove into her food at the potluck. So I'm not the only one. You know who you are. In any case, we got acquainted, and at some point I asked her out. And that was the beginning. We hit it off right from the start. We married in 1983, right after Thanksgiving, in the middle of a huge snowstorm. Some of you here got stuck here as a result of that. And a few years later, our son Willis was born, who's here today with his partner Jesse. Thank you so much for being here. I love you guys. Elisa had such a huge influence on everything that she touched, from working at the mine, being on the mine rescue team, being the water quality monitor for Westmoreland and the companies that followed it up in the hills above the mine, Sunnyside Market, the boardwalk, the Casa, Elaine's uptown and downtown. Let's hear it for our lovely Elaine, who also just passed a couple of weeks ago, and we love her and her family so dearly. All of that history just kept rolling out, until Red Hat Produce, and then Big B's Delicious Juices, and all the other things that Elisa was involved in. She was on the board of KVNF at one time. She was involved with the Planning Commission. And most recently, she was part of the board of the credit union, the local credit union, whose folks we really love. But all of these things just meant so much to her, and the community that she was part of. The cards and texts and emails and everything that I have been receiving in the last few weeks are just overwhelming. And all I can say is thank you. And please keep her in your heart. And for this gathering today, huge thanks to everybody who helped put this together. And I'll probably forget some of you, but Bobby Campbell for organizing a lot of what's going to happen today. Jeff Schwartz for making this all available to us. Jeff and Seth, his brother Seth, who couldn't make it, unfortunately. But they are all part of Big B's Juices and Delicious Orchards. Ashley Kress and all of the crew at KVNF for all of their huge support over the last month. And Gretchen and Robin Nikoloff and Linda Bacigalupi and Ralph D'Alessandro and all of our friends and close acquaintances that have just come together. Annie Stewart and her daughters who are here, who helped organize. Jane McGarry for putting together what she has has put on the tables for you folks to add your memories to. There's a million people to thank, and especially Mary Hockenberry for the picture. It was a selfie that Mary took of herself and Elisa that I cropped and used for Elisa's picture that you've all seen on the programs and whatnot. And so I think that's one of the most beautiful pictures of Elisa of all of the pictures that I've seen. We've got a little slideshow running over there. As it gets a little darker, hopefully it'll be viewable. But thank you all so much for coming, and please keep her in your hearts from here forward. And thank you.
Hello, everybody.
This is Dickie Cole.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. My friend Steve Nikoloff here, and I've prepared something to read. Wanted to say hello to everybody and thanks for coming. And let you know, Steve and I moved to Colorado in the early 70s and had the good fortune of knowing Elisa for a long time through the years. And I can fondly recall when we met Elisa, she was leaving the health food store in Boulder, hitching a ride home. She was new in town and living with a group of hippies like us and working as a nurse's aide. Later that spring, she joined us in our primitive cabin in the foothills. And around that time, we made several trips over here to see what the North Fork Valley had to offer. Then Steve and Elisa moved here that summer, and through the fall were caretakers of a place up near Bowie. Even then, she was a great cook, as you all know now. And I remember a Thanksgiving dinner at that farmhouse, and later that winter, back in our cabin in the foothills west of Boulder, Elisa baking lasagna and cannoli in the wood cook stove. That's when I learned to properly say ricotta and never to substitute cottage cheese for ricotta. About that time, Elisa got interested in auto mechanics, took a course at the free school, and helped Steve repair vehicles. She was eager to learn, ambitious, and not willing to be told she couldn't do something. I never remember her not having a job. Always busy. You know, Elisa treated me like a big brother and freely gave me advice as if she were my big sister. So we're all so lucky to have her in our lives, and yeah, never forget her. Thank you.
Thank you. So to add a few things, I mean, we really were hippies. You know, I don't know if we knew it or not, but you know, but living above in the mountains. I mean, really the mountains above Boulder, and no running water, no electricity, seemingly no house at times, no vehicles that ran, lots that didn't run. Transportation was a big deal. The road we were on above Wall Street was such that it was only Jeeps, high clearance four-wheel drives that could get up there. And somehow Elisa would show up. I mean, since we first met, since that first, pick up, oh, there's a hitchhiker. In those days, hitchhiking was acceptable. And, after that, at times she would hitch up and walk up the hill exceedingly steep, quote, I mean, it was far from the driveway. It was a mining road. And there were 2 mines up there. And, yeah, so, but, you know, she loved it. She loved getting away, I think, from her work, which, as I recall, she worked at that funky, kind of ghostly sanitarium on 4th and Mapleton outside of Boulder as a nurse's aide or something. And she would often come up to the cabin, and I mean, food seems to be was a big part of her life. I remember Jeff's song, by the way, tofu to go, brown rice, seaweed, and an avocado. Oh, was it? It was a good one. Still is, no doubt. So, yeah, this little, you know, cabin on National Forest land in the mountains, which was, what did we say, like 10 by 12 or something?
Very close. With a big wood stove.
With a big, majestic wood stove that Elisa would appear, and suddenly there would be feasting. You know, just like here. Just like here. So, one story, and I was never have been, you know, mechanic, or really, I don't think I had that much interest. I just mechanic because, you know, I didn't want to walk the 6 miles to Boulder or whatever it was. And at some point, I obtained a 1959 Chevrolet, I think it was an Impala, with the rear fins, you know, that blossomed from the center and looked like you want to fly backwards. And this thing was such a boat, and floppy steering and almost non-existent brakes. But somehow, you know, after we had been coming over and going back for quite some time, we, you know, we got the notion that we should be here when onion and potato harvest was going on. And so we drove from Boulder. Might have gone directly to the dump in Delta. And I was telling Dick this morning, it's as if I were, you know, 3 or 4 years old, looking up in wonderment at this mountain. And at the top was a big dump truck, and dumping its load. And the mountain was made out of onions and potatoes. I mean, you remember this? I mean, we used to go down there and glean, and, you know, beforehand, I looked around for burlap bags and, you know, ended up taking a bunch of orchard boxes to put stuff in. And when the dump truck drove away, you know, we scurried down and picked up hundreds of pounds of potatoes and onions. The Chevrolet was dubbed the Mud Shark, probably by Dick, because it was so worthless. If there was anything on the pavement, you know, it was just all over the place. So Lisa and I are, you know, we gave a bunch of stuff away back in Boulder, and one day we were going to town, you know, had walked down the hill from the decrepit cabin and got in the decrepit car, and we're driving down Wall Street towards town, which was, you know, unpaved and slick as snot. And by golly, somehow the car just decided to lift to the right and go into the bank of 4 Mile Creek and turn over. And it rained potatoes on us. And that was almost like a, you know, spiritual awakening, I think, for both of us. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it was. I mean, the mechanics that Dick mentioned, I think, are really telling because she determined she had an interest and she followed it. I mean, she just zeroed in and did whatever it took to scratch that itch or whatever. And she was, she was focused. And she never talked about it much. Like half the time, I didn't know what she was doing. I didn't know where she worked. Probably did, but work was like a sideline. By the way, I think she supported, both us and other people who came and went to this cabin up Emerson Gulch outside of Boulder. I mean, I would every few weeks. I was so not into town. Every few weeks, I'd gather my library books, put them in my big pack, and take my list of car parts and food, and walk down the hill and get to town, and go to the library because the books were so heavy, and I'd get that done first, and then maybe I'd go to the Green Mountain Granary where we first picked her up. And, by that time I'd be exhausted and say, I'm getting the hell out of here and just, drive home. But Elisa there was one night when, I think at this time we didn't have a car. Maybe it's because the Mud Shark was defunct. But, during the winter, she would often, stay in town if the weather was really bad, which it was a lot back in those days. And one night, she didn't come home. I figured, well, she also worked weird hours, which I've never figured out why nurses always seem to have these weird hours. But she came home like, I don't know when, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and she had walked the probably, 4 miles from the junction in the snow, in the middle of the night. I can only imagine her getting to the bottom of the drive and walking up that last quarter mile. Yeah, very determined. You could never tell her, like Dick said, that she couldn't do something, because she would, just to do it, just to prove she could. So I'll wrap up. I just want to say, Elisa had a sincere wonderment and desire to make things work. Going to classes at the free school, whatever, Boulder Free University or whatever it's called, and learning and always furthering herself, and always showing up. If anything, I mean, she embodied confidence and perseverance, and I can and I will do such and such thing. But more than anything, she had a godly ability to approach and engage people on their level, on their own terms, with no preconceived judgments. And I mean, you look around you here and you see people you don't know, you see people you might, pass on the street or something, but you've not really connected. And our common bond here is that Elisa went across all those boundaries and all those cultural differences and tied, this community together. And if she taught us anything, it's that we're all brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Hi, I'm Tina Bigaria, and I have the pleasure of working with Elisa in the coal mine. Um, Jeff, Willis, family, and friends, I am honored to speak today about how Elisa touched my life and many others in the mining industry. I grew up in this small coal mining town. My dad was a coal miner, but he never spoke about women working in the coal mine. I do, however, remember him saying it was a belief that if a woman was working underground, it would be bad luck. Then picture the 70s in the North Fork Valley. The decade of change. Women's rights were front. Am I not loud enough? Okay. Women's rights were front and center. Elisa was a pioneer of women's rights, needs, and priorities. She, along with a few other women, broke through the barriers to be some of the first women to ever work in the mines in this valley. But of course, some of the men working at the mine thought the women were only there to meet the quota or to find a husband. They didn't understand that women wanted to make a decent wage, as they all did. I met Elisa in 1979. I had just graduated from high school, and I wasn't interested in going to college. Had always been a very self-driven person, and I decided I'm going to work in the mine. Elisa was the first woman I met there. She became a mentor, leader, and a friend. She was always a fresh voice, shoulder to lean on, and a partner in the quest to show that we, even as women, were as important part of the workforce as the men were. It wasn't easy work. It wasn't easy work for us. It wasn't easy work for men. But it seems like we had to give 150% every day just to prove that we deserved to work alongside them. I believe things have changed a great deal since then, thanks to those women who gave and cared about our own rights as women. Sometimes we take for granted the rights we have, not only as women, but as human beings. We need to remember the struggles of those before us who had to bear for our freedoms. We both left the mines and made new career choices, but we always stayed in touch. I spoke to her just a few weeks before she left. We caught up on what we'd been doing, and she told me that she was finally going to retire and spend some precious time traveling and camping with Jeff. There will never be another Elisa. She will be remembered for the special person she was. I'm going to miss her. But as they say, until we meet again, sister, love you always. And there is a member in the crowd that was a partner with her in mine rescue, and he would like to say a few words. Ray? In the back. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Right here. This is Elisa talking to me either flipping me the bird or saying some four-letter adjectives. And she was always this way every time I met her. Well, not all the time, but there was times we had good conversation. But that was Elisa. Yeah, it was always that smile, always that cheerfulness, and such a special lady. But the first time I met Elisa was November 22nd, 1976. It was our first day of orientation at the Colorado Westmoreland offices, which were double-wide trailers across the road from the Paonia Theater. There was maybe 15, 20 of us in the room at the time. We all had to introduce ourselves. For me, I had no mining experience, none whatsoever, but I did have warehouse experience. And when it came to me, you know, there was a bunch of miners that had Bear Mine experience, Hawk's Nest experience, Mid-Continent experience. And when it came to me, I said, well, I'm a warehouseman. And they all looked at me, well, okay. Then it came to Lisa, and she says, I'm gonna be an underground coal miner. I looked at her and said, this girl's got some balls. I mean, she wasn't, what, 5'4" or so? Yeah. I said, well, good for her. So through the end of November and into December, we had some bad snowstorms up there. And we were just opening up the portals to the Orchard Valley Mine. And she was up there working in all that muck, hauling cable or pumping oil, 55-gallon oil barrels into this Lee Norris miner that leaked oil constantly. And she got right in the middle of it. She wanted to know how that worked, where all this hydraulic oil was going, and how to repair a hose. And I kept bringing materials up to the mine site before the bathhouse was built. And she said one time, well, it must be nice in the warehouse. And, yeah, it's nice and warm. Any of you wimps can work in the warehouse. Whoa. Okay. So, but there was more money to be made underground, and they were just starting up mine rescue teams. Every coal mine at that time had at least have 1 or 2 coal mine rescue teams within an hour of the coal mine. And this is when we... I'll get this mixed up. Okay. But anyways, we started in 1977, and Elisa was always interested. You know, what are you guys doing? What is this? And about that time, we were going underground. We were a couple hundred feet, and she said, I want to be a part of this team. So, let's see. Let me try to keep this organized. Rebuilding. Here we go. There was oh no, I lost her. Hold on. Please be patient. Here we are. In 1978, there was... sorry, folks. I gotta get some glasses on here. Yeah, oh, here's me. My name was Grizz, or it's called Jizz Grizz, or it's called A-Hole, or it's called S for Brains. But there was, you know, Grizz was the name, and there's a bounty on me. So, no, I'm sorry I got this mixed up. Well, it was 1978. We got our first continuous miner, and then Elisa was 1979. Was the first female EMT at the mine, or at any mine. She had done the all the training for it, and there was about 4 or 5 others that were EMTs at the time. Yeah, is that in there? Oh, yeah. No, that's not it. All right, I'm sorry, folks. Oh, here it is. I found it. March 7th, 1979. Thanks for a job well done for all the new emergency procedures forthcoming for the EMTs. There's several men and Elisa Greco right there with them all. This is 1979. Then in 1979, one mine rescue team went to the National Mine Rescue Meet in Louisville, Kentucky. And that's Lisa didn't go to, but she was ready at any time to jump in if any of us couldn't make it. That's where we met our fellow coal miners from West Virginia who told us about moonshine, something like that. And we brought some back. And not in West Virginia, you bet they did. So in 1980, we had our first mine rescue meet at the park in Paonia. And this picture here, you won't be able to see it, is of the old goalpost at the football fields, and below it is a smoke chamber that all of us mine rescue people had to go through, every one of us. And you say, well, how can you go through that? Well, everybody wore a 33-pound self-contained breathing apparatus. And I mean, your whole face was covered. You packed this thing around. It was 33 pounds. We walked 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours. We had a 4-hour supply. And Elisa made it look simple. She had no problem putting that pack on and going through smoke chambers or the obstacle course that MSHA set up for us, or standing in a smoke chamber for 15 minutes like I did. And the only difference is the mine inspectors knew me and they threw an extra smoke bomb in there when I was there. But Lisa, she was the co-captain of the red team, and her name is mentioned in 1980. And we had another meet in Price, Utah for this is in August of 1980, and we had a meet in Price, Utah, and she was a part of that. So every meet we went to from 1979 on to about, I think, 83 or 84, she was a part of. And she did not want any special treatment for her size or her gender. She always asked, what were we doing? What's our strategy? How are we going to win this meet? And we bounced ideas off of one another. She was the co-captain. I was the co-captain of the black team. And she was not afraid to put that pack on and go anywhere. And I would trust my life with her to this day. That's how great she was. But she knew mine rescue. She was also a roof bolter. She could operate teletrams. She could operate front end loaders. She could operate continuous miners, belt lines. She knew all the belt line. And then she went to maintenance as a mechanic. She was the first woman in maintenance west of the Mississippi. She was the first woman coal miner up there with several others who got her EMT, and she was the first mine rescue team member west of the Mississippi. Now, that takes courage, bravery, commitment, and balls this big. I mean, sorry, but she did not take any crap from me, and I never tried to give her any. But here's a young Elisa right here with us before we went over 1980 to the 4th Annual Rocky Mountain Coal Mine Rescue Contest in Price, Utah. August 22nd and 23rd. It's hot over there. And you've got a 33-pound pack on and a full respirator, and you're on a course that you can be on for maybe an hour, hour and a half. Elisa was there. She did not shriek that duty. She did not wimp out. She was right there to win. And anyways, sorry it's taken so long, but there were so many contests she was in, and I gave some paperwork to the families that they're willing to share. Please share it with everybody. But she was a pioneer woman. She was a brave woman. She was a strong, dedicated woman, and she was a friend. She was my mine rescue buddy, and I will miss her. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought you guys. I read you. Too fast, guys. Slow. F after B flat.
Sounds good.
I don't know what you were playing, but that wasn't
Check, check.
Check, check.
Check, 1, 2. Hold on. Check. We can share. You and I can share if your mic doesn't work. Check, 1, 2, check, 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 check. Check. Yeah, got it? Okay, let's tell him I'm sitting here wanting memories. To see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. You used to rock me in the cradle of your arms. You said you'd hold me till the pains of life were gone. You said you'd comfort me in times like these, and now I need you, now I need you, and you are gone. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Since you've gone and left me, there's been so little beauty, but I know I saw it clearly through your eyes. Now the world outside is such a cold and bitter place. Here inside I have few things that will console. But when I try to hear your voice above the storm of life, then I remember all the things that I was stone. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I think on the things that made me feel so wonderful when I was young. I think on the things that made me laugh, made me dance, made me sing. I think on the things that made me grow into a being full of pride. I think on these things, for they are true. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Thought that you were gone, but now I know you're with me. You are the voice that whispers all I need to hear. I know a please, a thank you, and a smile take me far. I know that I am you and you are me and we are one. I know that who I am is numbered in each grain of sand. I know that I've been blessed again and over again. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes.
Nicely done, fellas.
Thank you.
Well, we didn't find.
Hello, can you hear me? Does that work? Okay. Yeah. I figure if Jeff can get through his speech, I can get through mine. So I know precisely, I know the GPS coordinates of where Elisa Greco was on July 6th, 1973. That's because Elisa was on our farm on Sunshine Mesa, carrying our son Jason around on her back, her shoulders, in her arms, while I labored to give birth to our second son, Blake. And, oh dear. Okay. Are you all right? Do we need mine rescue? Yeah, so anyway, my mother and sister were accidentally near witnesses to this hippie-style birth in a picker shack with no running water. And Linda's then husband, Todd, will be holding my mother back, to keep her from coming to my rescue, because women in labor make some strange noises. But anyway, so somehow or other we all survived that intact, no rescue vehicles required, and everyone is doing fine. Blake is very sorry he's not here, Jeff, but Jason is here with his children, Talia and Melina, and I hope you'll meet them later on. Truly, can you imagine a gift like that, What a sister would do, Elisa did for us.
so, pretty much from then on, she's at the top of my list for celebration and enjoying life together. So I'll just fast forward 10 years to 1983, where I had the honor of being the officiant at Jeff and Elisa's wedding that took place in our newly finished addition to our hand-built, lovingly crafted home. And Elisa appreciated that. She had helped us on the house, helped us build the house, as a lot of people I see here helped us too. Anyway, during that wedding ceremony, I was shaking like a leaf. I don't know why. And Elisa, I don't know what was going on, but her eyes were big as saucers. It was like, I think the gravity of the occasion perhaps settled in on her briefly. But we made it through the ceremony. And as I recall, Jeff, I don't remember the storm, but I remember a great party down at the Hotchkiss Elks, right? With, music and dancing and the sirens. Yeah, the sirens of swing. They were great. Anyway, so I can only say praise be that Jeff and Elisa had the courage to embark on that life journey, and how wonderful it is that Willis came along to join them for the ride, and what a wonderful, rich life they've lived together. So I think my big takeaway with Elisa's passing is to think about the impact that she made on everybody out there, and just hope that we can all do the same, to be remembered with such love, and as Bob wants us to, and we should, with great joy. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kay Bennett, and I'm Jeff's sister. I live in Dallas, the Dallas, Texas area. Hope you won't hold that against me. But it's an honor to be with you today to celebrate the life of Elisa. I came across a quote recently that I thought would be very appropriate for today. Each day is a gift. Each gift is a blessing. Each blessing becomes a cherished memory. Elisa had a way of finding the gifts in every day. When our family first found out about Elisa and that she and Jeff were planning to marry, we were surprised and pretty impressed to learn that she worked in a coal mine. And not only that, was on the mine safety team. I mean, she was a little thing. And that she was slowly but surely, in stages, building her own house. A unique individual, to say the least. Those first impressions were just a hint of all of her traits and talents that we came to know over the years. Elisa has been described as a great friend, an asset to her community, as evidenced by her service on the boards of several local organizations. Very creative, someone who loved exploring the outdoors and growing flowers and herbs in her garden, interested in everybody, and a great cook. She was all of those things and many more to so many people. She was also a wonderful wife of almost 38 years to Jeff. They complemented each other so well. She was a great mom. Willis was her pride and joy, and she welcomed with open arms his partner, Jesse. She was a loyal sister and sister-in-law She was a special aunt. She was a valuable coworker. She was a beloved friend. Or just someone who smiled and told you to have a nice day when you saw her on the street. On a personal note, even though we lived far apart and visits were infrequent, Elisa and Jeff always stayed in touch. Christmas presents usually included thoughtful and unique gifts. Many of them were locally produced here in the North Fork Valley, or foods or ingredients for us to try. She was so supportive of her community. Ceramic pieces or jewelry made by Colorado artisans were also usually a part of the package. She sent great books to our son Brooks, and perhaps a garment she had chosen, such as the tunic I'm wearing. Even though we didn't see each other very often, things always fit just right. I don't know how she did that. Today, as we celebrate her life, we grieve because she left us way too soon. And we regret that she won't be visiting all the places she wanted to see. We're sad that we won't see her next beautiful creations, and we'll miss the delicious food she was known for. But as we celebrate her life, we are so glad for the times we shared, and will always remember her infectious smile. We will always remember her lively spirit and curiosity, her concern for others, and her amazing creativity. She would probably remind us not to put off those things that we've been wanting to do or needing to do. She would want us to remember that each day is a gift, each gift is a blessing, and each blessing becomes a cherished memory. Thank you, Elisa, for all the cherished memories that we will treasure. Rest in peace and love, Elisa, and watch over each of us on our journeys. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mary Hockenberry, and I'm honored to be able to say a few words about my beautiful friend Elisa. She's generous, compassionate, insightful, funny, a community builder who gave so much to the people she loved. Lisa and I had been friends for a while when I asked her if she would serve on the steering committees for the town of Hotchkiss economic development efforts beginning in 2018. She was so knowledgeable about many facets of our valley. She said yes, and we slogged through hours of meetings, learning about retail leakage, and working together to shape strategies to help spark success in the business district in Hotchkiss. Elisa was all in to do the work and has been a steadfast participant in our monthly business coffees, showing up to help move our foundational work forward. Elisa was a fabulous fiber artist, working, in the years I knew her, working with crochet, some knitting. Her standout work to me was her embroidered felted pieces. She brought some of her works in progress by last winter for a little feedback in preparation for entering them in the county fair. She loved entering her work in the county fair and was happy to add ribbons every year to her collection of her awards. Elisa took action when I was all talk about yarn bombing Hotchkiss. After listening to me talk about it for a year or two, she picked up her crochet hook and completed many pieces to brighten up Bridge Street, still to be installed. She also got her sister involved in the making. She brought me a collection of colorful, whimsical pieces that are a lasting gift to Hotchkiss. One of them is the rainbow. I got myself in. Elisa was my heart sister. She supported me through rough patches, someone I could confide in when the pressure of political life was overwhelming to me. She motivated me to get out for long walks across Rogers Mesa in the dreary months of the COVID winter, and I got to spend much precious time with her. She showed up to cheer me on with almost everything I was working on. She showed very wise insight and guidance on how to effect change in the patriarchal power structure of Delta County. I valued that. We shared a common interest in strengthening our community, to work across divides of culture wars, recognize common ground, and work together for the common good. Elisa was my mentor. She was a badass, and I am grateful for all the time we had together.
Those are tough stories to follow. Elisa's just been here and been such a powerhouse for so long. And Tracy and I were blessed to meet Elisa about 20 years ago when we moved to the valley. And we thought the mountains and the water and the farmland was the most precious thing of this valley. But what we realized, it was the people and the community. And I think as we hear, Elisa was at the forefront of doing the work of what it takes to really make community, like to raise our children, to get to have marriages and ceremonies of life and potlucks all the time and celebrations. And so the energy and the idealism and the awe of people who come to this valley, coupled with the wisdom and the steadfastness, the success, the inspiration and the awe of who have spoken today, like these old timers. Not like old, but you've been here longer than us, long time. It's an honor, it's a blessing, and we thank you so much. Elisa embodied all of that. And she was a real leader. And she helped us raise our kiddos, and her intense passion and her energy coupled with her kindness and her generosity and her compassion. She was at the forefront of this community, at the forefront of our life. We met Elisa, Tracy and I met Elisa. I met Elisa when she was the quality control manager at Red Hat. And we would, every time we had to go anywhere, I'd have to deliver something to Red Hat, and Elisa would stop us, check every single bottle that might have been missing, count it again. Tracy's yelling, we got to get to the airport, and she signed the invoice. But Red Hat never had a quality issue, never had an inventory issue when Elisa managed Red Hat's quality control program. That's a fact. Big B's never had a quality issue when Elisa managed Big B's. Maybe like 2 years later after that, 15 so years ago, I can't remember, we met Tracy and I in Dagan. I wasn't born yet. We were at Elaine's Uptown, and it was really just a blessing of a restaurant. Elaine and Annie and Elisa gave everything they had, the baklava and yeah, that was a good soup, the good lemon soup and the gyro and all that. And we got talking, and Elisa, she decided, we were also, I was doing Tracy and I were doing all the office work. for Big B's juices, and we weren't running the orchard yet, and we really desperately needed a trusted family member to step into our family business. Someone that we could just know that would watch after us, because we weren't watching after the money. We were just building, and Elisa came in as our mom, you know. We had our second mom, and she watched after us so closely and so carefully and with compassion. And I don't know what that's the cheers of the speech there, so I'll just have to wing that one. But she was the perfect person to come into Big B's and run that office, and Tracy and Seth and I just trusted her with our business, thus our life. Not only did we find this incredible office manager, we found this mom to us, which I said, and she was supportive and compassionate and loving and strict. And like every invoice, she'd yell, "I need the invoice, I need the invoice." And it was a good lesson in one I'm still learning, in humility and patience. Thanks, Jake. You're right. I'm almost done, you know. But she brought to our life, our company, which is our life, a sense of professionalism and a sense of excellence, which we didn't have at that time. And she had the experience of all the stories that we've heard, and we were so grateful that she was able to bring that experience to us on one of her last work journeys. And again, we just couldn't be more grateful for that. All the Big B's people and crew and family will miss her selflessness and her dedication, her attention to detail. I think we'll miss her salads and her waffles as much as anything. And I'll sign off, and Trace might have a word, and then Enrique is going to come up and speak for her family at Big B's. Enrique. But I don't know if everyone knows this, but Elisa created and developed the Big B's lemonade. And it was the first juice that we made after Bernie. It was the only juice that we really made that Bernie didn't make, and Elisa made it. And she did. She sat in the office and went to the kitchen, and she made it, and she made a good one, and people love it. And so the next time you have a Big B's lemonade, think of Elisa, give her a good cheers, and just God bless Elisa.
I will just be brief, but a lot of people have spoken here today about Elisa's strength and her forthrightness. And my first encounter with Elisa was actually before Big B's, when I had my knitting shop over in Stephanie's bookstore. And she came to me with some help she needed on a knitting project. And I had my son, Dagan, who was an infant then, and I used to ride my bike out from Stewart Mesa. And we became fast friends. And to this, you know, from ever on, we have had fiber arts in our connection, and she has, every time there's a wool show or a fiber show or an art show or anything happening, she texts me, she emails me, and she lets me know, and she gives me things. She would go on vacation and bring me yarn, and we just always had that connection. And it just made me realize that every single person that Elisa has ever met, she cares deeply about what you care about, who you are, she knows you, she cares about you. And she remembered every birthday, every Christmas party that we ever had. She had gifts for all the children. Like, she just loved every single person that she met, and she brought that to everybody. And I'm so grateful to have her. Okay.
Elisa.
Cheers.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Enrique González y hace un par de días Jeff Schwartz me pidió que dijera unas palabras para la comunidad hispana. Hace 5 años me incorporé al equipo de Big B's y inmediatamente hice muy buena conexión con Elisa. aproximadamente un mes cuando recibimos la noticia de su partida. Fue un duro golpe para todos, para la comunidad, para la familia de Big Peace. Desde entonces no hay día en que no la recordemos, en que no comentemos, hey, vi a una persona que se parece a Elisa, e inmediatamente mi corazón brincó. Después supimos que no era Elisa, por supuesto. Y eso nos ha continuado sucediendo día tras día. Vemos a alguien con el cabello blanco, rizado, delgada, pequeña, con lentes. Hay muchas personas parecidas en esta área. Y es un momento de alegría que dura un flash. Después la realidad nos golpea y nos hace entender que Elisa ha iniciado su viaje de vuelta a casa. Cuando Jeff me pidió que dijera unas palabras, pasé los últimos 2 días pensando, ¿qué voy a decir? Pero realmente el problema no es qué voy a decir. El problema es que hay mucho que decir acerca de Elisa. Tantas anécdotas, tantas vivencias, tantas cosas buenas. A veces estábamos felices, a veces nos enojábamos, a veces hacíamos bromas, en fin. Pero la convivencia con ella siempre fue para todos nosotros muy estimulante. Mi tiempo favorito alrededor de Elisa era las fiestas de Halloween. Porque ella siempre lo tomaba con mucha alegría, con mucho humor, se pintaba el cabello, se disfrazaba. En fin, les voy a decir que detrás de la puerta de la oficina hay una pequeña escoba. Y yo siempre le decía a Elisa, no olvides tu vehículo. Y ella se reía, me decía cosas. En fin, hacíamos muchas bromas, jugábamos mucho, nos apoyábamos mucho. A veces ella venía al taller con muchos papeles y me decía, ¿qué es esto? Esto es un gasto de Jeff. Es que Jeff no me dio el recibo. ¿Cómo voy a controlar a Jeff? Le digo, Elisa, sorry, tú no puedes controlar a Jeff, pero ¿sabes qué? Cuando no sepas lo que es, ven y pregúntame. Yo ando escuchando y normalmente sé que, él mandó a arreglar su vehículo y sé que ese bill pertenece al taller mecánico. Yo te voy a ayudar. Desde entonces nuestra relación creció y nos apoyamos más y más. No había cosa que Elisa no pudiera hacer. Ella era capaz de hacer cualquier cosa. Lo que tú le pidieras, ella te ayudaba. Hasta la fecha la extraño mucho. Yo sé que todos la vamos a extrañar, la estamos extrañando mucho. Por su mente abierta, por su disposición a ayudarnos, a darnos un consejo. En lo personal, cuando yo me despedía, como soy el último que se va, ella se quedaba trabajando. Yo le decía, Elisa, ya me voy. Drive safe, Enrique. Sí, Elisa, voy a manejar con cuidado. Y me lo repetía otra vez. Drive safe, Enrique. Sí, Elisa. Don't worry. Me preguntaba, ¿vienes en tu vehículo o vienes en tu moto? Vengo en la moto. ¿Traes casco? Sí, Elisa, traigo todo. Ok. Ten cuidado con los venados. Ok, Elisa. ¿Cómo pudiéramos olvidar a una compañera de trabajo, a una persona como Elisa? Creo que no la podemos olvidar. Jeff, Willis, Jesse, yo les puedo asegurar que cuando Elisa se fue, se llevó una parte de nuestro corazón. Pero ella nos dejó en ese hueco una parte del propio. Yo les aseguro que no podemos olvidarlo. Feliz viaje de regreso a casa, Elisa. Que Dios te bendiga. Gracias a todos.
I'm not on the program at the moment, but I realized that in my attempts to pull my thoughts together, I dropped an entire chapter in my earlier talk, and our live stream unfortunately didn't really connect very well, so we are recording this for the folks back east that couldn't come out. Elisa's family on the East Coast, Sister Paula and her husband Ed, and her sister Donna and her husband Bob, and her brother Joe and his wife Dee, and Paula's sons Tad and Ed the third, and Nate, and the nephews, grandnephews and nieces. I want to send my sincere thank you to all of the Greco family for making me a part of what that is, and I hope that Willis keeps his Italian connections going as we move forward, because Elisa's family was a huge part of her life, and I should have mentioned it earlier, so I'll mention it now. We're thinking of them very much today. They couldn't be with us, but they're here in our hearts for sure, and we're feeling a whole lot of love for the Greco family and the Odas out on the East Coast, and they'll be seeing this after the fact. But thank you so much for letting us be part of the family.
We're getting near the end of our ceremony, and I just want to say this is really one format we've been able to share together, a very beautiful thing for stories, recollections, perspectives, many faces and facets of Elisa that we know and love and will miss dearly, as I said before. But I want to encourage you all to continue as we finish here. We have this another beautiful community tradition of the potluck and the other foods and drinks that Big Bees has supplied to allow us to have this classic North Fork gathering, right? And take the time. Many people here you haven't seen for a long time, or you're meeting for the first time, and share these stories and memories. And I make another point of the books that have been provided. I think they're on the tables. If you want to take the opportunity to write a wish, a memory, a thought, those will all be collected and given to the family afterwards. So please seek those books out and put your thoughts in there. It would be really nice to have everybody's little piece of being here today. And the other the thing I'd like to encourage you to do is take the opportunity to keep Elisa with you as you go forward in your respective lives. Her spirit is as close to you as your connection was, and can continue to be if you put it out there, reach for it, and listen for it. And I think you can keep Elisa close that way. And in finishing today, the ceremony, we have a poem that we'd like to share. And this is a special poem that was presented to Jeff at one point, and it immediately resonated with him. And one of the first things he told me that this had to be part of the program. And it's an E.E. Cummings poem. We have a very special way we're going to present it to you. It's printed in your programs, and you can follow along. I think we can all just share in this moment, keeping Elisa and carrying her in our hearts.
I'm really grateful to have been asked to read this poem in honor of Elisa and Jeff. And
I love this poem, and I did a little reading about it, and it's quite unusual in E.E. Cummings' style. And so in reading some of the analysis of the poem, I did find this really neat little paragraph. This poem, written in 1952 by E.E. Cummings, describes a romantic relationship so strong and intimate that it transcends individuality, effectively uniting the speaker and the subject of the poem as one. The speaker's love for his beloved not only reconfigures the speaker's sense of himself, but also influences the way he moves in the world. How perfect a love song for today. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are my world, my truth. And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all being here today and sharing the love. I think food service is set up in the back, and again, take this opportunity to meet and greet and continue on the conversations, stories, and recollections, honoring our dear friend Elisa. Thank you.